All right, we're good. Joe, are you ready?
Yes.
All right, this is Tom.
I'm Joe.
This is No Huntsville, another episode coming from the Prototype Studio, Prototype Multimedia Studio in the Low Mill Arts and Entertainment building. Thanks to those guys for giving us the space, of course, and then also thanks to our Tommy Hodges.
Yeah,
Is he
great.
here? No. Okay.
But he's helped out a lot. He's great.
Should we start this over? We're good.
I'm good.
All right. So thanks to Low Mill Arts and Entertainment, and then of course thanks to our sponsor Straight to Ale, giving us really good beer today. I think we about killed it, right?
Yeah, you've been drinking a lot today.
That's not true, Joe. Don't put it out like that. All right. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna turn it right over to Nikki Beal here with the Foundations for Tomorrow, 501c nonprofit who builds tiny homes for the homeless.
Yeah.
At least that's what we're trying to do, right?
Correct.
Thank you so much for coming and talking to us about your tiny homes.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so we have a prototype here.
It's a to scale model that a fraternity built for me last year at Mind Gear Labs.
Okay.
And so they got to learn about all the measurements and scale and all that stuff. And
So let's take a step back. Tell me what you're trying to do with these type of homes in general.
okay, so this idea came from the shutting down of Tent City under the overpasses when the Department
Like the
of Trans-
565, that one where you turn around. Okay, I remember.
When the
yeah.
Department of Transportation came in and was like, "That's my land."
Right.
So a lot of our homeless were displaced, and so now we have to service about 16 different camps. Every Saturday, Team Hope goes out and gives them food and clothes and things like that. So
Where are these camps that you're talking about?
everywhere.
They're just a whole bunch of different places?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So what we're trying to do is take those same people and put them into a hardened shelter.
Okay.
And that way they can have privacy, they can have security, and we can get them out of that survivability mode and give them a little hope to get them reintegrated.
And a little dignity and a whole bunch of other stuff that goes
Right.
along with that. So how does the project work? So how do you match? So ultimately, what are you trying to do? You're trying to match one of these type of style homes to a particular person. Is that right?
Right. So this is really for transitional housing.
Okay.
Okay. So it's not a permanent solution.
Okay.
We're trying to get them out of a tent, right, where there's a whole issue of things they have to deal with every day.
Sure. And security being one of those things.
Correct.
Right? Yeah.
Into a hardened structure. And then we want to place all these hardened structures into a village, have centralized amenities. And once we get them into a shelter, we can start to address their mental illness, their substance abuse, job training, and those kinds of things. There's a national movement by the federal government called Housing First. And that's what we believe they need first to then conquer all their other problems to get them.
They're homeless. A lot of them have mental illness. I mean,
That's right.
and you got to address that.
Yeah.
And
So
you guys are doing the perfect thing, getting it started.
So if you can imagine you wake up every day in a tent, are you more worried about where your next meal is going to come from, or are you going to go and worry about getting medication,
Right.
And when you go to get your medication, you have to carry every single thing you own with you so it doesn't get stolen.
Right.
So if we can get them into a hardened shelter where they can lock up their stuff, they wake up like me and you do, and they say, okay, now I have my basic needs covered.
Right.
Now what can I accomplish?
Now I can worry on the other things that gets me
Yes.
out of the situation that
Correct,
I'm possibly
correct.
in. So you were talking to me earlier about these villages. So describe how a village works. So because the amenities in one of these homes are very minimal.
Correct.
Because that keeps costs down and makes
Correct.
these things possible. But the village needs to also accomplish other things like water and those type of things. So talk to me about how the village would work.
Okay, so the idea is when you go into these tent cities that already exist, they already have a sense of community that they've built, okay?
Okay.
So they watch out for each other, they take care of each other. All we're trying to do is take that same sense of community and put it into a hardened shelter.
Okay.
So with that, we want to have centralized amenities so we can keep the cost down. That way we don't have a utility bill for each one of the houses.
This is like a campsite sort of deal.
Exactly.
Okay.
Or even dorms at the college, right?
Right. There's kind of a communal bathroom area,
shower area.
So you only have to worry about plumbing and stuff for one
building.
spot. Gotcha.
Correct.
Okay.
And even that, most of the time in these villages, they're always portable because a lot of the times we just get land leased to us
Okay.
and we don't own the land. So they're still portable. Like when they have maybe like 5 houses built, instead of putting the bathroom in, we just bring a porta potty in temporarily,
Okay,
right?
I see,
But
yeah.
you have to understand where these people are coming from. Currently, they are going in the woods.
Yeah,
So providing them any means of
It's better
a
than what's
sa-
happening now.
Correct.
All right,
And
so-
that's what we're trying to do is step. It's a transitional step, right? So
Right.
even living in the woods, they lose some of the basic hygiene skills that me and you take for granted
Sure.
because they're worried about so many other things. So that's part of putting them into a hardened structure. We can't just take them and put them directly into an apartment without teaching them some of the life skills.
And I said it before, but I think it's worth repeating again. I mean, to not have to go in the woods and to be able to go into a real spot, that's a dignity thing. That's a self sort of, you feel better about yourself rather than, like it's a perpetuating sort of a mental issue
Correct.
where you're not feeling like you're in the woods. I mean, that's
Agreed,
that makes
agreed.
total sense to me. Like, and these things, like I think in what you're trying to do is, it's a small step, but then it becomes a snowball where it gets bigger and better,
Right.
then eventually you get out of that situation.
So even take, for instance, about half of our homeless are employed. They just can't afford housing, okay?
Okay.
So we have about 1,500 people wait on the waiting list for public housing. So where do you go while you're waiting? So these people have already been qualified, right, to get public housing, but we don't have enough public housing.
Right.
So while they wait, why can't we just put them in a tiny home?
Okay, so
right?
what does one of these things cost to actually build? Something very simple. So
Yes, very simple. So we get our trailers custom made. They cost about $2,100.
Okay.
And then in materials, I have about $2,900 for the actual structure. And then we try to add solar to each one of them, and that costs anywhere from another $800 to $1,000.
Right.
So you're looking about $6,000 to $7,000 per unit.
Per unit. All right.
Right.
And again, these are temporary units. So the thought is that you would bring somebody in, you improve what their situation, and then would move out to something more permanent.
Correct.
Okay.
Transitional.
So
Yes.
what are some of the impediments right now? What do you need to accomplish the most right now in order to get this thing moving? So tell me
Okay,
that.
so the biggest part is the land.
Okay.
So in the city of Huntsville, it is against the law to camp anywhere. Even if you have an RV at your house, you are not allowed to live in the RV at your house, okay? The only way is if you are in a trailer park or a designated campground. All our designated campgrounds are state parks, so they're not owned by the city anyway.
Okay.
Okay, so what is the biggest hurdle, not in just this community, but every community, is zoning and ordinances. So in the city of Huntsville, you can, ordinance-wise, you cannot live in anything that they would consider camping. And because this doesn't have running water and it doesn't have electricity,
Right,
they would
okay.
consider it camping. So you really have to get your city council behind you to make these changes to some of the codes or get variances on the codes. But the thing is, it is possible. It's happened in 6 other communities. There's about 8 communities wanting to do this throughout the United States. We're all part of one big network called the Village Collaborative, where we all share best practices and information and documents on how to make this happen.
Yeah, so you're modeling your program and what you're trying to do after some other stuff that you've seen actually working in other places, right?
Correct. So
Yeah.
Andrew Heben wrote a book called Tent City Urbanism, and he actually, for his college thesis, went throughout the United States and lived in different tent cities.
Wow.
And he took what he learned and he wrote a book, and in 1 year and for $100,000, Andrew was able to build his whole community. And so when you're replicating something, the easiest thing is to look for the bright spot, and Andrew is our bright spot. Andrew's only 26 years old, and like I said, he did this in a year. But he's out in Oregon. It's a lot more progressive, and the people really came behind him and wanted this change. And so I actually got to meet Andrew and walk through his village, Opportunity Village, and now he's actually building his next one called Emerald Village, which takes this just one step further, and it allows for families, and he does put running water and electricity in them. It does cost him about $35,000 per unit, but now that the city has seen that it works on a smaller scale, and his first transitional homes are about half the size of mine.
Oh, really?
In Dignity Village, they are even smaller than that. They're only big enough for a mattress to fit in, and it really is just about providing hardened structures.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and they are transitioning people. Their city said, if you're going to do this, we're worried about security issues, right? So they made them hire a third-party security company.
Right.
Well, in the first year, they never had to call them because these people are not violent people,
They
right?
want a home.
Right. They just want a house. Okay.
Right.
So just like the poor, just because you don't have money doesn't make you a bad person. So you're also fighting all those stereotypes as well.
Yeah, and I think the stereotypes are something that need to be overcome to help with some of these walls that get put up when you're trying to do these type of things. And hopefully giving some exposure to this will help to that. So
Correct. And we're also trying to do a video where we go and actually let people, see face to face some of our homeless, just so they see that we're really not that different, right?
Right.
So most people are 2 paychecks away. Most Americans are 2 paychecks away from being homeless. And when you actually meet these people,
Right.
something like cancer, a death in the family, leads them down this road.
Right.
Most of our homeless are either in and out of homelessness, or this is the first time that they've been homeless. We don't have a big population of just chronic homeless.
Okay.
Okay, so those are people who, and we really don't target the chronic homeless. We really want, that's awesome. We really want the people who want to get back.
Get better, yeah,
Right.
and get,
And
help
there is
yourself
a
out.
process to how we choose people. They have to agree to the community rules, okay? And the community rules are actually established by the residents. So most of them include no theft, no drugs, and no violence. And when they break one of those rules, the community votes on what happens. Most of the time, the first offense, it's 24 hours out of the community. Second offense is 72 hours out of the community. And the third offense, you're asked to leave. But nobody has to tell them how to do this. They're adults just like we are. They are running the same exact structure in tents already. They used to have a mayor of Tent City. That's common anywhere that they are. You still have the hierarchy.
Wow.
It's just like the subculture that's within like the prison system, right?
Right.
Same thing happens, right?
Yeah.
So no matter where we are, we all have that same sense of community. They just do it in tents, and we do it in suburban Huntsville.
Because
Wow.
what could a mayor of Tent City do in regular society? I mean, he's obviously got some.
he's got some skills.
Yeah,
He's got some social
Right.
skills.
Right.
just give him a chance.
That's right. That's right. It's just give them hope, really.
I think it's great, Nikki. I'm really impressed with what you're trying to do, and I think it's an uphill battle, but I think it's a battle worth fighting.
Yeah.
And so I'm really impressed with that. I want everybody to check this out. You have a Facebook page that you can just look up Foundations for Tomorrow, and then also a website, foundationsfortomorrowal.com.
Yes.
So people should go there, check it out, and I think that a mentality has to change to kind of combat the criminalization of poverty. And I
Well,
think
the-
that's a
Agreed.
big deal. And I think once people start realizing that these are just people, then I think some of that stigmatism could come down. And I think you're helping to that, and I think it's pretty great.
And
That's not my backyard mentality's got to end.
That's
is what
probably
it
got to
is,
end too.
you know?
Yeah, for real.
And might also speak to the schools, because part of it is the education portion, right?
Right.
So exactly along the lines of what you're saying, most communities find themselves policing and not servicing their homeless. That is also part of education.
Right.
But I speak to the schools as well to let our next generation know, one, that this is in their backyard, and two, we build these tiny homes in one weekend. So I let them
Wow.
know, if we come together, we can change somebody's life in one weekend.
And it can happen
that's what's
fast, right?
awesome.
All right, Nikki, thank you so much for coming in. Again,
Thank
it's Foundations
you.
for Tomorrow, foundationsfortomorrowal.com. Please check it out. Please support this, and let us know how we can help some more, because I think it's a pretty great cause.
Appreciate you.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks a lot, Nikki.
Thank you. Are you guys going to cut out the house falling down?
We have to do some CGI stuff to make that
Like, you have to. Like, how can I be like, I'm building these crash? Like, y'all help a girl
Well, you didn't build
out.
it, right? This was built by...
Oh, you couldn't. I'll go. Earthquake. And then cut it in there. And
We don't have very much in Huntsville, so it's cool. It's all right.
Tornado!
I think it's good. I think we got it anyway.